All right. So welcome everyone to the Mega Alumni Podcast. This is our first episode. So we are still figuring things out. Uh, and this is our first guest. Abhi, do you want me to just continue calling Abhi, or do you want your full name?
Abhi is fine.
Abhi is fine. All right. So before we begin, I'll just give you the center stage and feel free to introduce yourself, where you're working, what your profile is like, when you graduated from OSU, to just give some context to everyone.
Oh, sure. So, as you guys already know, I am a grad. I was a grad student at the mechanical engineering department. Worked for a year and little more as treasurer for Mega. So I have been closely connected to Mega a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Then I graduated in 2022 December. Since then, I've been here in Colorado working for a software company called Spatial, which comes under Dassault systems. So the stuff that we do eventually gets into SolidWorks, which I guess everyone is
Ooh,
familiar with.
right,
So
right.
any if you have any problems, please don't email me. But
You're still
yeah,
you're the one who still figures out the prototyping stuff, then that needs to be like worked on, and then it's supposed to go into SolidWorks, right?
it's kind of mixed bag. So some things are just fixing stuff that was broken. So customers who would reach out to us saying like, "Oh, this is not working properly the way we intended it to," and
Oh.
stuff like that. So that's one part of my job where
Mm-hmm.
we fix things. The other one is R&D side. So that's where, as you said, like new stuff gets prototyped, tested, and then eventually it will make it to the product.
Right, right, right.
But
So
I do not handle like I do not work on SolidWorks directly. It's all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, like
behind the scenes, right?
when you hit that extrude button,
Mm-hmm.
what happens that it goes through our kernel
Ah, okay.
and does all the math and everything. So
Right.
that's the part I work on.
So I'm guessing there's a lot of applied math stuff going
Oh
on.
yeah,
Applied math
a
and
bit too much.
coding, right? Yeah. So how
Math
how
and
how
coding.
is yeah, how has that been? I remember that when you were applying for jobs as well. I mean, since you are in Mega, we know each other. Uh,
Right.
so we spoke when you were applying for jobs and stuff, and I remember you saying you were going over a lot of coding stuff,
Yeah.
math stuff when you were applying for jobs.
Yep.
So has that helped? And like, are you now well versed with the math language that you're using in your kernel?
Still no. It's gonna be a while until I actually understand things that are going behind
Right.
the code. But it definitely helped to prepare in advance.
Mm,
Like otherwise it's like jumping into something that you totally have no idea about
right.
unless you do the preparation in advance. So that it did help
Right.
quite a bit.
So is there?
And
Yeah.
this was pretty much was what I wanted to do, like the intersection of math and computer science. So it was not that tough for at least for me to get into the groove working on these things.
Right. And I mean, for both of us, our research is kind of slightly numerical
Yeah, that
oriented. So we are
yeah.
we are we do tread the math waters at times.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm guessing, do you feel that the kind of research you were doing here, the topics that also kind of helped you, still eased you into the math stuff, uh, or is it
Not just
really
eased,
different?
man. Like it
Oh, okay,
completely prepared me for what was to come.
okay, okay.
Like when I entered OSU as a new grad, I had zero experience programming,
Mm-hmm.
zero experience doing the math stuff we do now.
Right.
So from first year to fourth year, everything that I learned at OSU prepared me for this. Like
Oh,
I'm really fortunate, like my research area and everything was close to what I'm doing now.
That's good to know that at least our
Yeah.
skills are transferable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Uh,
Definitely.
so can you give some again? I know since you're working for a company and you're probably the R&D stuff is probably some of the stuff is under NDA. Is there
Kinda.
is there anything that you can share about what kind of exciting things that you might be working on?
Ah, I'll give you an example of something that's kind of finished. So it's
Okay.
almost done. So it might be okay for me
Mm-hmm.
to share some of the things. So we were working on this thing where for to give let's just take an example of like you're trying to manufacture a part and you want to 3D print it,
Right.
right? So that's going to be your manufacturing process, 3D printing. Now you want to you are given a box volume where the 3D printer can actually print stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can say like 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter would be your working space for the machine.
Right.
And you want to fit as many parts inside of it as possible.
Hmm.
Right? You want to optimize your production rate and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was one of the problems we worked on at Spatial, where you are given the part and you have to
Right.
fit as many as possible within the constraints the machine has. Like the orientation has to be good, like the support has to be nice and stuff like that.
Got it. Got it.
So it was
So
very mathematical problem and optimization stuff like many things
yeah,
that we actually do in our research was kind
yeah,
of
that's what I was
being
gonna say.
used.
Isn't I mean this would fall under that top the topology optimization kind of thing,
Exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
oh okay, okay, cool.
Well, you're not exactly optimizing the part itself. Like the part
Yeah,
optimization is supposed to be done in the previous stages of the pipeline.
right.
You're optimizing more
Their
the number of
orientation and their
parts. Yeah, the number of
and
parts,
how
how
they
it should be oriented for the
right.
machine and stuff like that.
And I'm guessing that makes sense from like a user perspective because they
Yeah,
probably want just a button to like optimize
right.
and make it.
And you'll see this theme again and again in industry. Like
Right.
everything is done with a purpose.
Right.
Like it, and the purpose will 99% of the time be making it easier for the customers.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas
That
I think research is a bit different kind of environment where you are exploring things
yeah.
rather than meeting demands of someone else. You know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of that we were together in Fast 2, right? So you remember that
Yeah.
the technology readiness level, that TRL level thing. I'm
Oh
guessing that's
yeah.
where it comes in, right? Like
Yep.
the research stuff being more on the fundamental side, whereas the
Yeah.
industry being
The
more on the
initial level,
application.
whereas yeah, in the industry,
Yeah,
you'll find it's already at the later stages.
yeah. It's we need to figure out how to implement this so that it becomes
Right.
yeah, it makes life easy.
Oh yeah.
Well, not for you, but for your customers.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, so yeah, I mean, you kind of touched upon this a little bit, so I guess that could be something we can also talk about. How have you found the difference between industry and academia? Like how is your life now? Is there anything you miss about grad life, research life, like in academia versus what you're doing right now?
Lot of things, man.
Okay.
But it's kind of like how you feel after your bachelor's as well. Like
Right.
suddenly you want to get out, and suddenly when you get out, you feel like, ah, that was nice. But it's not everything that you miss, right? Like it's probably the people.
Mm-hmm.
I miss Mega a lot. And then also, like as a student, the expectations from you, like obviously we are student researchers, we are not just students, but the expectation more is for you to learn
Mm-hmm.
and then apply whatever you learn to your research.
Right.
Whereas in industry, it's kind of assumed. I wouldn't say it's assumed, but the expectations is more like you have already learned what you wanted to and what was
Right.
needed for the job,
Right.
and you're just gonna apply it more. Like it's very fast paced
Right.
towards the end of the pipeline.
Mm.
Like you want quick results. It's not expected. Like obviously you will spend some time again catching up on stuff that you have learned,
Mm-hmm.
but you won't get as much time as in, and no courses as well. So
Yeah.
that was probably the biggest difference.
Right.
Yeah. Apart from that, it's mostly change in location.
Change in location. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very different. Uh, Let me see. Uh, of course, I really miss teaching. Like I
Oh, yeah.
TA'd for almost 3 semesters, and I
Right.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was torn between going into academia
Yes. Yes.
versus going into industry, but I guess ultimately I ended up here.
Ultimately ended up here. I mean, we never know. You might come back to the
Yeah,
academic
who
side
knows?
at
Maybe in the
some point,
future.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we both took the
Uh,
first two course with the same intention, I think.
yes.
Right?
Yes. I guess I'm still leaning towards academia, but yeah, I don't know what will happen in the future. Let's see.
As
Uh,
long as the path is clear to you, it will be fine.
yeah. 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 Exactly. So I think this is also the thing that we commonly heard, even when did some of those alumni panels, like a lot of people saying that once you're out of grad school, you at least get your weekends back. Is that the case? Is that the case with you?
100%, bro. Like
Okay, that's good to know.
work
That's good.
hours have definitely changed.
That's good to know.
Like probably all grad students have like 9 to 9 or even more, even
Right.
overnight. That does not happen. In fact, it's kind of uh what's the word? They try to make it like you won't work more than you have to.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So once I hit 5 or 6, I just stop whatever I'm
Okay.
doing. And it's
Right.
understood.
Right.
Like everyone does the same thing,
Yeah.
and it's kind of much more healthier in my opinion.
Right. Right. So very clear expectations from like
Very clear expectations.
your work hours also,
Of
and
course, those expectations are very strict as well.
yeah,
Like during work, you are just supposed to
just doing
work,
work. Yeah.
but there are clear boundaries between work life and home, I guess,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and even other stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I
That's
don't miss the 9 to 9, man.
yeah. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Is the grass greener on the other side? Uh, cool. 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 So something else that I guess we can also talk about, which I'm sure that a lot of people would be interested in because you recently graduated, and I know there are a lot of students who are currently applying for jobs or maybe looking
Right.
for internships and stuff like that. So is there uh, a quick question? So as far as I remember, I don't think you did an internship while you were here,
I did
or
not.
did no, right?
No.
So I guess that adds context, and even for me, I haven't done an internship yet.
Right.
So how did you feel going through just the job application process? Like, uh, any advice on what you prepared? Especially how did you prepare for interviews and stuff? Because I know
Oh
usually
yes.
people get their foot wet with like internship interviews, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, as you said, like I didn't intern. Most of my focus went into the research work I was
Mm-hmm.
doing, which is probably many people at
Yeah.
OSU, I would
Yeah.
assume. Not just OSU, everywhere, grad students. Uh, the biggest thing, the biggest barrier for me at least was moving from mechanical to a more software kind of role,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, what are you gonna put on your resume when you're
Yeah.
applying for jobs that where the requirement is like C++, SQL,
Right.
database management, and stuff like that?
Right.
So my advice would be, and what I did was I started preparing in advance. Like I knew what kind of jobs I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
which was software intersecting with mechanical engineering and stuff like that. So I started preparing for those things in advance. The biggest thing is like every software interview will have is uh, those coding questions, which are like toy problems, but they are not easy if you don't know in advance. Like, okay, how do I approach this? There are a few very set methods to solve those. and the interviewers and the companies expect that you know them already. And it's not that a grad student won't get it. Like they will be able to solve pretty much all of those problems, but the important thing is there's a time constraint there.
Yeah.
Like the question will be something and you will be asked to solve it within 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. So
Which, unless you kind of have a clue where the question is going and which algorithm I have to use and all, will be very hard to do in.
so was that so like these timed things was this like a part of the application process? Like you had some
That's
sort of an online portal where you submit an answer within 15 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, usually it's
Okay.
the latter one you said,
Okay.
but sometimes it goes like the person in front of like the interviewer will ask you the question and give you 15 minutes for it and time to
Oh,
solve
okay.
it. Yeah, it goes either way, but
Okay.
majority of the ones are like online
Mm-hmm.
online portals. And sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No worries.
Yeah, the questions look easy, but it's not when you're under the time pressure and
Yeah,
the
exactly.
pressure of having a person in front of you.
Yeah,
So I
that
would say get started with those ASAP.
mm,
I would in like once you realize you are within the 1 year of graduation, start doing it.
right.
Like there's a lot of platforms, Lead Code, Hacker Rank,
Mm,
which are free.
mm,
So there's no reason not to go there and start working on it.
right.
And that's
Right.
the first step of every software interview. So if
Right.
you cannot crack it, you won't be able to show your resume or explain your resume and your skills to a person until you crack this part.
Right.
So
So
for sure, start working on it if you plan to enter software.
I know you mentioned some of these resources. Do they also offer some sort of certification or something like course completion or something like that that you can also attach on your resume? Because like we discussed that since we are not technically
Yeah,
CS background folks.
right.
Um,
Not really, not these ones.
okay,
These are more geared towards solving problems rather than
got it,
learning.
got it,
I shouldn't say that. It has learning aspect to it, but not like courses.
got it, got it,
It's like solving exercises and learning from it.
got it. But that should be sufficient for at least like the interview process stuff and like
Right.
getting you in, right? Okay,
Yeah, getting your foot inside the door,
right.
that you need to have that skill.
Yeah,
Other
yeah.
than that, I took a lot of CS courses. Like
Okay.
I don't know, like people probably know it, but they are hesitant to do it, like take courses
Uh,
from other departments because they might be like, oh, I'm directly going for a grad level course without having the undergrad courses under my belt
right.
from computer science department. But I'll tell you what, like I have taken at least 4 or 5
Whoa,
grad
okay.
level courses in computer science,
Okay.
parallel computing,
I have taken that one
machine
too.
learning, and stuff like that. Yeah. And I don't know what your experience was, but I felt pretty ready for it.
Yeah, it was good.
Like I never felt I'm lagging behind any other computer science student.
Same here, same here. But again, I guess just to give some context that in our labs
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
do coding
say.
stuff. So we are probably a bit of an outlier within the department also because we do code
True, true.
quite a bit in our labs. So but yeah, as you said, I also didn't have any issues in that parallel
Yeah.
computing course. I was yeah,
So as long as you have some basic background in coding,
yeah,
you should be fine. Like just take those courses, see how you feel in the first 2 weeks. Then, as always, you can drop it if you feel it's very tough. But
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure you won't have any issues with that.
Yeah.
And that helps on resume, right? Like you can
Yeah.
actually put some courses there rather than having everything mechanical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That adds some weight to your
Absolutely.
resume when you're
Especially for
applying for
like I
software
guess
jobs.
yeah, your kind of job. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, any recommendations on the interview part? How was that going? What was going through your head? How did you practice for that, man?
The way I did it was I had zero experience giving interviews and stuff. Like
Same here.
I did not intern anywhere, did not apply. So I was going in totally blind. So the first thing I wanted to do was get a feel for how interview processes go. So the way I applied for jobs was the first few jobs I applied were places that I was not too optimistic about or straight up did not want to join
Okay.
unless I have like
Okay.
no choice.
Right.
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 So the stakes were low
Right.
and I could get a feel for how the interview process works in this area,
Mm,
especially going from mechanical to like software.
right.
I wanted to
Right.
get a feel for how the interviews are, what kind of questions they ask, what do I need to focus on without having this added stress of I need to perform really well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So after that, I started applying for the actual companies I was really targeting.
Got it.
So it helped tremendously.
Yeah,
Like I
just get
do recommend people
confidence. Right.
doing it that way if they have no experience giving
Mm-hmm.
interviews and uh,
Cool.
no experience in software
Yeah, I
either.
think especially if you're trying to pivot a little bit from what you did here,
Right?
it definitely makes sense, right? Because you're probably even more nervous talking about
Yeah,
things
yeah,
because yeah, that
yeah. It also helps get that nervousness off of
yeah,
you. Like you know what to expect,
right, right,
rather than suddenly someone coming in front of you and starting asking questions like,
right.
"What did you do in your research?" Like that's gonna be the most common question you'll get
Yeah,
asked. Like, "What did you do?"
yeah,
And you need to be ready for it. Like you cannot blank out.
right. And I guess that leads me to kind of the other point or the other question. So a common thing that I've also heard from other people who are applying is that maybe just getting that interview itself can be a
It
bit of a pain,
is.
right?
It
So
is.
now looking back at your applications and kind of also seeing the places from where you did get an email notification or a call back for an interview, uh, can you see some sort of a pattern that hey, yeah, from those let me say successes in getting interviews, do you see some sort of a pattern in what should be done to get the interview or what should not be done to get the interview?
Well, in my case, I had a really large net cast. Like I was applying for many different roles
Right,
related to my research, not related to my research, and
right.
so on. Uh it's pretty much as someone would expect. Like anything that was close to my research work,
Mm-hmm.
I had good chances and it
Mm,
showed.
mm.
Like barely, I don't think anyone did not reach out to me
Okay.
when it was connected to what I was doing
Right.
at OSU, like research work.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of the kind of random applications that I did, uh, the response, like even getting the first call
Mm-hmm.
or like, okay, we'll at least check you out
Yeah.
was very hard,
Right.
very hard. Like 10%, let's say, conversion rate.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hard. Like
Yeah.
that's why you need to have a very clear idea of what you want to do
Right.
in the future and start working towards it. Probably if I had more courses under my buckle
Mm.
or did some boot camps or maybe something like that, have more GitHub projects to show
Right. Right. Right.
these this in a like the situation would have probably been very different.
Right. Interesting. So in terms of like even making like your cover letters and resume and CV and
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that,
yeah. You
uh,
need to change it for
every company,
every
every application,
application. Every
every
application,
application.
like every job posting, will tell you what they expect you to have,
Right. Right.
and you kind of want you don't want to bury the skills they want in your resume
Mm-hmm.
within like some stuff that doesn't they probably won't care about.
Right.
Like add in FEA to a company that wants me to work on algorithms.
Right.
Although you might think it's relevant, but or
Yeah.
I would rather have a resume that's very lean
Hmm.
than one that's filled with stuff that's totally unrelated.
Right. Right. That,
Like some of
yeah.
my resumes went from 2 pages to 1 pages, where
Hmm.
many of the mechanical stuff did not apply.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I guess it's also a lot of work.
It is a
Uh,
lot of work.
right.
Like you need to set time out for it,
Applying for
100%.
jobs itself, I guess then is like your part-time job before you graduate.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is filling out forms. They will ask you the same questions again and again. You cannot just copy and paste from one form to the other. Even for the same company, sometimes you have to fill
Yeah.
out 7 pages. It gets so annoying. But
Right.
I guess that's just something you have to do.
Right. 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 Yeah. Or the part of the process, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Well, once you have been through grad life, you are probably used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's the biggest
It's training
certification
for
that you're
filling out
getting.
forms.
Yeah, a certification for managing all these kind of things, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, by the way, they changed the complete so while you were here, we had like the annual evaluation forms, right?
right.
The student evaluation forms. They have completely
Okay.
revamped. Yeah, they have completely revamped those, and that form is also now like 7 to 8 pages. But it's
Wow.
actually trying to collect a lot of insightful data. So I think it's
Right,
it's
right, right.
it's a good step. But yeah, it's a pretty big form now.
Well, at least you have to do it just once every year, so
Yes, just once every year. That's true.
not like 100 times in 2 months span. And the same thing,
Uh,
man. It's the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You'll see this opinion everywhere online. If you
Uh-huh.
just like search for interview process, everyone will complain about the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But nothing changes.
Yeah, I know my lab mate is also looking for jobs right now, and
Uh,
that's the common grievance he's talking about. It's like you already
right,
asked me this before. Why are you
right.
talking? Uh, yeah, but so okay, so that the whole interview call thing, I guess it's like you really want to, at least if you're not thinking of pivoting, I guess, then in that sense, it always makes sense to really filter out the applications in a way that they align very strongly with what you're doing right now if you want to get if you want to get a better shot of getting that interview, I guess, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And
And
that's why the approach I used was like, okay, start with companies that I probably have no chance with,
hmm
because you don't want to mess. See, as grad students, we are kind of in a very niche area of research. Like our scope is completely,
right.
like the scope is diminished,
hmm
or rather, I should say, it's more specific to one area,
right.
and there won't be as many jobs as for any generic thing.
mm
So you don't want to have those. You don't want to give interviews for those first when you are unprepared and nervous with the whole process. You don't know how it's gonna go. So definitely keep it in the middle somewhere.
yeah, you don't want to burn out those
Yeah, you don't want to
those
burn out
few
those
positions.
opportunities at all
Yeah, yeah.
because you didn't know how it was gonna go, or
Right,
you go
right.
you wanna take that part out as much as possible.
hmm yeah, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And then apart from like planning out how to apply for which kind of positions, like when you knew that maybe an interview call was
Mhm.
coming for one kind of a role, did you try to prepare something specifically for the interview, like brush up on some particular kind of material? uh
uh yes. So I knew that there's gonna be a coding round.
mm-hmm,
So I was always practicing. Like I don't remember even when I finished like a lot of problems on, let's say, lead code. I went through lead code.
Yeah.
I was still solving at least one every day just to keep my mind fresh on those
Right.
things.
Right.
Like there's a lot of, especially when you don't have a background in it, right? Like
Right.
depth first search,
Right.
DFS, BFS, like you wouldn't really come across like the technical part of it. You might know about it in your through your research, but
Hmm.
we don't really dig into it,
Hmm.
which interviewers would expect. So to that fresh, keep it fresh in my head, like I was every day solving at least one problem.
Okay. Okay.
Then I had a pitch, elevator pitch ready,
Oh,
like
right.
to
Okay.
explain like what I do.
Okay.
You don't want to miss, like that's your biggest opportunity, right? Like what did you do
Mm-hmm.
is like the most open-ended question you can ever get in an interview.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you tell how your research was related to the job profile, and
Right.
also tell things that you could not put in your resume,
Hmm.
like what you exactly did in detail.
Right.
So that's your biggest opportunity. That question is the very most important question, I would say.
Hmm.
And I did practice for that,
Okay.
like make sure I won't forget any point that I wanted to show or
Right.
put forward. Uh, Apart from that, it's mostly your resume that you need to be really. Uh, you need to be. You need to know what you put in your resume,
Right.
100%.
Right.
I would say if you are iffy about something, just don't put it there,
Hmm.
because there's a good chance someone will ask you about it, and if they don't get the expected response, like the level of response they're expecting, it puts the entire resume under fire. Like,
Right.
okay, if I say I'm an expert in C++ and I
Hmm.
don't know even the basic things,
Hmm.
and I have it in my resume, how can someone believe everything else?
Right. Right. Right.
Right? So do not fluff it at all.
Yeah.
Do not
Yeah.
fluff it, like, and be sure to know everything that you put on there. Like
Right.
I went through all the projects that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have done it like 3 years back, you cannot say, oh, I did it 3 years back, I don't remember much.
Right.
Which happens to everyone. Like even I
Yeah.
forget many things that I did
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
But you need to brush up on that. Like go back, see the code that you wrote. In fact, try to see if there's some improvement there,
Hmm.
and make sure you know everything,
Right. Right.
because people can ask you things that you didn't think,
You didn't expect.
you did not expect at all. Yeah.
Right. Did you end up getting any questions at any point more on, let's say, the maybe for the job roles where it was closer to your research, did you end up getting some questions more about fundamental mechanical stuff which you needed to brush up upon, which
uh,
that you realized once the question came to you?
uh Honestly, no. Like I think I was very lucky in that
Okay.
regard.
Okay.
Like
So
I feel like I prepared well enough
okay.
on my resume that I was ready for any kind of curveball they throw at me.
Okay. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. But as I said, it's just one data point, right? There
Yeah.
might be cases where
Yeah. Absolutely.
people got some random question that was
Yes.
totally out of the left field.
Yes. Yes.
But you need to be prepared. There's no other way.
Yeah. Hopefully, this new mega endeavor will help with that because
Oh yeah, it will
we'll
for
try to
sure.
get more alumni talking about these things, their experiences, and
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like unless
yeah,
you go through it,
it's very hard to know.
it's very hard to know. And so you need someone to tell you.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't want to mess up kind of the only, not the only, I wouldn't say the only chance, but one of the chances that you have.
Yeah. And I guess it's
So I do encourage people to follow the podcast.
yeah.
I'm sure it will be helpful for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for the mega plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we are kind of at time anyways. We don't want to have these be like really long-winded. I think we talked about some of the things that we discussed before the call, right? Is
Right.
there I'm just looking at it and seeing if there is anything that yeah, I guess the we can probably end with this last discussion point is that yeah, so
Yeah.
do you have any advice in particular for grad students who are starting off and then who are maybe somewhere in the middle of their program and
Yes.
somewhere close to graduation? Like what advice would you give to like these three different
Like
grad
looking
students?
back, I could clearly see the mistakes I made.
Okay.
So I hope people don't make the same mistakes as me.
Mm-hmm.
First one, I would say for the newly joined people, know what you want to do.
Right.
Like the time you have is very important.
Mm,
You don't want to be halfway through the program and then suddenly realize that this is completely not what I want to do.
mm,
So I would say spend more time, explore all the areas you are interested in, and make sure talk with people. That's the best way. And make
right.
sure it's something you really want to do in the future, as well as like now, as well as in the future.
Right.
For the people who are like halfway through their program, rather this also applies to people who are at the very end. Uh, try like there's a you have to strike a balance between how many things you are doing or learning. Like you don't want to be like jack of all trades sounds very nice,
Yeah.
but it's probably not what you want to do
It's
because
not
it
going
will
to get you the
dilute
job.
everything.
Huh.
Yeah. Like having superficial knowledge, like in interviews, no one will bother asking you questions about superficial knowledge, especially for the jobs we apply, which are like specialized.
Yeah.
They will always dig into like the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah.
So being having too many things on your plate and not being able to focus on anything is not really the play here.
Mm,
Which I honestly was I made that mistake. Like I went into so many different things, but luckily my research kind of kept me focused on one thing as well.
right.
So, but at the same time, I wouldn't say just focus on one thing. Like
Mm,
try to have many different skills under your belt.
right.
So there's a balance here. I know it's very cliche, like maintain balance
Yeah.
between these
And I
two,
think
but that's
and
the
I
truth,
think
man. Like,
get a pattern of what you're trying to say as well. So it's like the do the exploratory phase when you just come in and
yeah,
right off the gate try to explore, make sure what you want to do, but then
yeah,
throughout the remaining years then try to focus on what you have found out to be your
yeah,
thing rather than like coming
right.
in and then spending time on something, then midway figuring out that I
Yeah,
want to do a big pivot, and then like it's a whole new start again.
it's a whole
So
new start, and you have to relearn all the skills that are required for the job. And it's not easy getting to a level where you can be very sure that okay, I'm ready to do this.
right,
And yeah, and that applies for the people who are very close to graduating as well.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I guess people close to graduation are probably the main thing on their minds is just making sure that their dissertations and thesis are
Yeah.
being completed on time. So
Yeah. For them, I would say like look up like if your end goal is industry,
mhm,
like start looking up what the expectations are, like the current expectations
mm,
are. Which the best way to do that is just start searching for jobs you want to apply for.
right,
The job profiles are very detailed. Like they will tell you exactly what skills they want. Most of the software jobs will say which programming language they want you
mm,
to be good in. So that will probably tell you what you should focus on. There are so many programming languages, C++, Java, Rust, Python, but usually the company will have everything in one language and they would
right,
expect you to know about it.
right. Right.
So for those people, yeah, start looking up what skills you need and just focus on those few skills.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Makes
try
sense.
to start on anything new
Hmm.
unless it's very important for you. Like
Hmm.
you cannot get the job without it.
That's,
Because
but
I'll
I guess
tell you,
that's something you want to do like probably 1 year before you graduate.
yeah, exactly. Like when you're in
Right.
the middle stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like a normal person has like how much? 18 hours in a day, considering sleep and other things. Maybe a grad student has 22 hours with 2 hours of
Right.
sleep,
Right.
but it's still not enough to
Right.
focus on everything. So you need to be very sure, like, okay,
Yeah.
these 5 things I'm gonna be provided,
Mm-hmm.
and it will help you tremendously when you go out
Right.
searching for jobs.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I guess last just add-on question to that. You spoke about the job application portals and stuff. Is there
Uh-huh.
anything that you would recommend where to find these jobs? Company,
LinkedIn
like
has
company
become much better
websites?
actually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I would say start with LinkedIn,
Okay.
and other than that, you could, like, I knew which companies I was going to target
Mm-hmm.
that were like working, that had a mix of mechanical and computer science. Like that was my target
Right.
zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew which companies fell into it. So I just went on their websites and looked up for, like, every one of those had a job
Okay.
page for jobs. So these two places would be more than enough to get a feel for what kind of skills are expected.
Perfect. Perfect.
LinkedIn is great.
Yeah, LinkedIn, I guess. Yeah, LinkedIn should cover at least a lot of stuff. And I think maybe once you start clicking
Yeah,
links and company websites from there,
yeah.
you also get an
You'll
idea
get
of, okay,
recommendations
yeah, yeah,
tailored to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. All right. Well, I think that was everything that at least I had on the list board. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we end this
Uh
episode? Any random stuff?
yeah,
Let's
follow Mega.
follow Mega, and apart from that, yeah,
It's a great initiative by the
yeah,
current Mega members. And I'll tell you, it's pretty helpful.
yeah.
Not pretty helpful, it's very helpful.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Follow Mega, support Mega.
Any
And there's a
non-work,
lot of things that go behind the scenes. Like
yeah,
it's not easy to set up these things.
that's true. That's true.
And Nehal did a lot of work.
I don't
So
know if I did a lot of work, but I've done some work.
nah, man, I'm sure it was a lot of work. Having gone
Uh,
through it, I know
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
cannot hide it from me.
yeah. Well, yeah, I guess the only last thing I was thinking
Uh,
about, apart from the work thing, like I know we spoke about a lot of
right.
getting jobs and anything, but yeah, is there anything else, leisure stuff, something that you want to recommend to grad students that they get a chance to do before they? I know you plugged in Mega that hey, you
Yeah.
should join Mega. Is there anything else that?
I guess
You-
one thing that I missed on doing was taking the skydiving course at OSU.
Okay,
Now I have
okay,
to travel really far. Like
right,
the drive is like 3 hours just to
uh-huh,
take a class on
right,
skydiving.
right,
Whereas at OSU it was right next to you.
right.
So
Take that.
yeah, take it.
Got it, got it. All right, man. I think yeah, it was great having you on. Thanks a lot
I'm
for
glad. I'm glad. This was fun.
yeah, this was
I'm
fun.
glad
Thank
I'm able to share my mistakes. So hopefully people don't make
absolutely,
them.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure
And
we'll
if anyone wants to reach out, feel free to. I'm not really too active on LinkedIn or
okay,
WhatsApp. Nehal would know.
okay,
But if you, I'll definitely see it sometime, and
okay.
I'll try to help as much as possible. Especially if you are pivoting from like mechanical to software role, I'll
Got it.
help you as much as I can.
Okay. Do you think it's okay? Would you want us to share your LinkedIn profile thing
Oh
on
yeah, go
the?
ahead, go
All
ahead.
right.
No
So I'll
worries.
I'll go ahead and do that
Yep.
when we upload this
Yeah. Even my
podcast.
OSU email ID
Is
would
it still
work.
working?
Yeah, I still get notifications, so I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Like I'll definitely see it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, then thanks a lot for sharing all of that information,
Yep, happy to.
and also being available to the current students.
Come on.
Hopefully that helps them out. And
Yep, I hope to.
yeah, and then yeah, for all the viewers, I guess, yeah, this is the first episode. So if you have some more feedback and ideas for what we should or we want to cover on this podcast, please let us know. Uh, yeah, feel free to visit us on our website. We do have a podcast page on it as well, and then we also have information on all the other stuff that we do. So I have it on my I have it on my Zoom background here, so that's the link. Uh, all right. Well, I guess
You
I
might as well also add a QR code.
I thought about adding a QR code, and then
But
I
is it
thought that
too
yeah,
in the
it might
yeah
be like too tiny. So
distracting?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop the recording
Yep.
then.